streaming. Oh yeah. It's pretty cool.
Pretty sweet. Let's get this trending on YouTube. If we all go to your stream right now, it'll show up.
I became my own club. It's always your club.
Are you Japanese?
Huh?
Are you Japanese?
Yeah, we're doing a hey, this is a long story. It's like a, Dom, you're live. Can you guys hear me? I don't know.
Do you live as open or on a different page?
I'm putting in the YouTube. So on the Lex page.
Okay.
Can Facebook pages do live streams?
Oh, it does,
They can.
but I don't know how to set it up. They're really weird.
Do you have Adobe Reader?
A what?
Do you have Adobe Reader?
I should have it. I don't know, it's kind of a new laptop, so I might not.
So you graduated?
Yeah, we're
There.
live. I see that.
How many people are on the stream right now?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hey, Arvin, can you send me that
Where
link?
does it tell you?
It should say like people
Sure.
watching now, or how like.
One.
Just you.
I think I closed it.
Doesn't Chrome and Firefox have like built-in PDF stuff now?
Yeah, they do. I could use that one instead. I don't know if it's like you can go full screen though.
Oh, I think even Edge.
Why do you have it on?
You know, can you answer this?
Mobile Chrome needs PDF support. That is super frustrating.
Hey, you know, it's me.
Dang, I'm on camera now.
Good. How are you?
I feel bad that we're still getting set up because I was
Can you hear
trying
me?
to. Oh, no.
This is the behind the scenes, unedited, raw.
Oh, it's 2:16.
Alright, I'll start.
You know what Einstein Bagel is? It's like, you know, it's like there's a sign that has
So I'm running this now, Arpin? It's mine?
outside of the door. The Bureau of Study Rooms in the engineering center on the second floor. Like where they have, like before the counseling office, there's
I'm
this
actually
like,
gonna
door with all the organization's logos.
Are there others?
Yeah, it's right there, yeah. Yeah. What is it?
No,
Okay,
I
yeah,
don't
no
know.
problem.
I was about to actually, and then I decided against it.
So our SAT and PSAT scores are just so high. It's insane. You know, like 32s and 33s.
Please call.
Yeah.
Hey, this ball. Use the time, man.
Oh, hey,
You brought
what's
this one in.
up? Oh my goodness. How are you
I think
guys?
all of them are from our
Oh, are they?
Hey, how are you?
I should slap one of these on his mask.
He's an awesome
Yeah, I know.
guy. I read him.
Hey.
Thought he did. Wasn't that his, or was it someone else's?
He's really cool.
What's up, I'm Zach. Nice to meet you. Arpin, throw one of these on your shitty Mac.
So why is not streaming? Oh, you paused it.
It is, yeah.
No. You haven't?
Wasn't that his, or was it someone
Really bad. It's been that.
Yeah.
Really? How did you park?
Yeah.
I saw the parking. Wait, did you wait until the end?
Yeah.
When you pause it, does it still keep streaming, or does it stop?
It's streaming live.
Yeah, I checked on what you call it.
You press this.
It's
You got
but the big thing is I'm so happy because
Alright, it's ready?
I met so many awesome people.
Press this.
Very memorable. It's very memorable.
Sorry guys, same computer everywhere. Give me a few minutes. Alright guys, so thank you all for coming and sorry for the delay. My name is Arpin and I'm the current president of Grizz. Now,
Yeah.
so this all started like 2.5 years ago when Dom really wanted to open up a club here at OU. And since then, we started doing a hackathon right after that, and that time Grizz Hacks was his own club, and later we merged into one.
I know, right?
I don't even know how to use this. I got it.
So, after all this history, our club went really ups and downs, and currently we are the largest club at OU, where we do engineering, computer science. Basically, we are open to do any, like security, any talks that involves technology and building community at Oakland University. And I see a lot of new faces, also a lot of old ones, and I'm really proud where our team took this club. It's not just me, there's like 20 people in the background that really works hard to make Grizz Hacks and likes the club that is here today. And it's my privilege to introduce the founder of this club and who's gonna give the talk about using mobile barcode system.
Great. Thank you, Arpan. So this presentation will be about how we can use mobile technology, barcode technology, combine them in order to engage students and give them feedback in a lab setting. So Arpan already gave me a pretty good introduction as far as the founder of League of Engineers Computer Scientists. So a little bit more about me. I graduated here. I'm an alumnus of Oakland University. Got my Bachelor's of Science, Computer Science over here. Right now I'm pursuing my Master's of Science in the same subject. I'm also a graduate teaching assistant. So I'm a teaching assistant with the Department of Computer Science over here at Oakland. And here with Tage Paul as well. I have a full-time job as a software program manager at Triva Automation, where we work with control software, PLCs. I do some freelance work as well with, under a company called One Simple Click LLC. We make websites, applications, that sort of thing. So the problem I'm going to talk about today is your lab. So right now it's kind of going by an old, outdated method. So for EGR 141 or CSE 121, those kinds of classes, for example, here's pretty much how it goes. You have your teaching assistant going around with a piece of paper that has all the students' names on it. And on that piece of paper, they're going to go up to people, they're going to go up to the students, they're going to grade them and then write down their grades on the sheet. So actually this method is pretty slow and pretty insecure. So in terms of the speed, it actually takes a lot longer to find that student's name in the list. I mean, you're going to know who they are, you're going to be using their name, but then you actually have to find it in the list, which is cumbersome and time-consuming. Not only that, after you write down all the grades onto the sheet, you actually have to go home or go to a different lab and to transcribe them after the fact. As far as efficiency goes, students don't get immediate feedback. And what I mean by that is kind of like you write the grade there, they don't really know it, and then later you go home, they'll receive their grade hours after, days after, sometimes weeks after, a couple weeks after. And then they'll have all these questions, oh, why did I receive this grade? Also, in terms of efficiency, paper is it's pricey, it's expensive. I mean, and not only that, it's not just expensive monetarily, it's expensive for our environment. If we want to have a pursuit to go green, which I think could be very helpful, this is one way that could greatly reduce on paper. Maybe if you're doing it on one class, maybe it won't be that efficient. But I mean, if we have an initiative to kind of do this solution, which I haven't told you guys about yet, then maybe we'll be going somewhere. So have any of you guys heard of FERPA? FERPA is like so it stands for the Family Education, was it? Rights and Privacy Act. It's a law over here that would protect students, and it protects students from their peers knowing about each other's grades. So when you walk around with this kind of sheet, this physical piece of paper, with all these students' names on it and all these students' grades, you're actually creating a risk that one student could see another student's grades. And when you have a risk like that, you're actually not in compliance with FERPA, which has its own problems all by itself. Not only that, you're not valuing a student's privacy. If you walk around with a piece of paper, you leave it somewhere, yeah, you might leave it behind, or you have to kind of cover the sheet, be like, hey, here's your grade. You know, you kind of like have to like cover the names. I mean, they're going to know the order. You know, everyone knows who the person above them and below them is anyway, so that doesn't even help. And when you have a piece of paper like this, you're actually exposing students' grades physically. And the worst part about all of this is you might go home, you might enter in all of the grades for all the students. And then you're going to get an email. They'll be like, hey, I didn't receive a grade, but I submitted. And you'll be like, oh, well, I never entered one. They'll be like, oh, well, I did, and it's not here. So you graded me, but I don't see it here. And that's another problem. Like, how can you dispute a claim like this? You know, oh, I submitted on time. Oh, but I didn't see you in lab. Oh, I was there. Maybe you just overlooked me. So, as you guys can see, this is the old, slow, outdated method. So now, let's talk about the solution. Mobile app plus barcode equals love. So basically, TH1 and I actually integrated this into the EGR 141 class, which is the problem-solving class in engineering, where we go by Visual Basic. So instead of using a piece of paper, we actually, on Moodle, we installed a barcode application. We coded it in JavaScript. So what that does is actually allows me to actually go up to a screen as a teaching assistant or a lab mentor. You take your phone and you scan the barcode on that student's screen rather than looking for their name on a piece of paper. The primary key for that barcode is actually that assignment ID plus the student ID. And that would bring up actually the submission page for that student for you to enter in feedback that way instead of going by a piece of paper. Now, what benefits does this have? It's faster, it's more efficient, it's more fluid, the process goes by a lot better, really. And there's no need to go home and re-enter the grades. And you know why? Because when you enter it in that mobile app, it actually immediately appears on that student's profile. It's easy, no paper involved, so you're actually protecting the environment. And yeah, like I said, with immediate feedback, it's not just that you can acknowledge that they got the grade, but also they have that feedback, so it's more enclosed inside of the system of the lab. It's more like the whole environment is kind of like centralized into one experience. Yeah, so it's completely free. There's no extra money that needs to be spent. And it's 100% FERPA compliant, so there's no student grades that need to be exposed. The best part about this, I would say, is that the students actually get excited about this technology too. I mean, I can tell you right now, when we were implementing it, they thought it was awesome. Instead of having to wait to get their grade, they get it right away, which is awesome. Like I said, it's 100% FERPA compliant, so that means you actually have no risk of a student knowing another student's grades this way, because you're doing everything digitally, and you're not having any paper where someone can kind of peek over and look at another student's grades. There's no risk of grades being exposed, and there's no risk of grade incongruity. And when I say grade incongruity, I mean the grade that I entered, everyone agrees, aka me and the student, agree that that's the grade that is going to be there for the rest of the semester. So any discussion that needs to happen about that can happen right there inside of that interaction, instead of anyone going home and emailing they disagree with that something that happened, because none of that would happen inside of this kind of environment because of the fact that everything's so immediate, and any issues that could raise concern would be raised right away. Without further ado, we should get to a demo. So basically what this is we get a barcode scanner app, which is easy to use. You scan the app, which brings up the student feedback screen. And then when you enter in the student feedback, the student instantly receives notification. So here's a lab screen that you guys have probably seen before if you use Moodle. It's basically the submission screen, but there's an extra module over here. Right here is the QR code module, which we coded using HTML, JavaScript, and Moodle technology. So from this point, the student submitted his or her assignment. Now, one of these lab mentors, Mir Tejpal, for example, will grab our phone, go up to the student screen after we look at the assignment, make sure everything checks out, and we have a grade in our head already. Now we take our phone, we scan the barcode on the student's physical display screen. And that will pull up a QR code URL, which will click to bring up the student feedback menu. From here, the grader will enter in the assignment feedback. So any kind of comments that we want to make, you can actually use the feedback comments over here. It's kind of almost like a text messaging screen. So you write everything you want to write about this assignment. If you want to deduct any points, you would write why you did it over here. Everything takes place within this entire environment. And then last but not least, you enter in the grade up there. And then boom, the student refreshes and the grade is entered. So as you can see, it went from submitted to graded all within a matter of seconds. And over here at the bottom, you can see the grade entered, feedback comments. And here on now, the student actually received feedback right then, instead of going home later and seeing the grade after the fact. This isn't just a theory, so we actually implemented this in Dr. Hannah's and Dr. Siadat's EGR 141 class. Dr. Siadat gave some great comments about it. He called it the complete package and thanked me for implementing this course. He thought that this is actually the future, and it actually created a great experience within students. And so, yeah, I definitely want to thank Dr. Siadat for leaving such great remarks. And really, I think that this kind of technology is a lot more of what we're going to see, this kind of disruption in the educational market. And I want to thank you guys for listening. Any questions?
Can we see a live demonstration?
Live demonstration? Well, didn't really put that together, but
it's already 7. We really want to move to different talks. But if you have time at the end, we'll do a
okay, no problem. Any other questions?
So are you possibly turning this into an actual viable product? Where do you think you can go on from now?
So, okay, as far as a product goes, what I have right now is it's basically kind of still in its hackathon stage, you could say. What I want to do actually is I want to enclose it all into like an actual Moodle module and then put it onto the Moodle store. So that would be the final step, and that's really the only thing that I'd have to do in order to like finalize it and make it an official product. And to do that, we actually I've actually talked to the e-learning department. You know, we actually showed them this same presentation as well, and they liked it, and it sounds like they want to move forward with it. So e-learning department at Open University, they work directly with the Moodle headquarters, you could say, or with the developer community. So I think that would be the next step, working more with the e-learning department at Open University. Yep.
Also, how did you get Dr. Siadat to actually implement it? Like, what was the conversation like?
Yeah. Okay, so I was already a TA in his course, And basically, I sent him an email. I reached out to him and say, hey, I think this is something that that could really help the students. I mean, I'm already Tejpal and I are already in the labs, and we think that this could really help us. And he said, okay, well, I don't really understand what this is, so can you meet with me in my office? So I went to go meet with him in his office. We sat down. I showed him the product, how it could be helpful. He said, okay, I'll tell you what, try it, see if the students like it, and if that works, then we can move forward with it. Turns out students loved it, we loved it, saved everyone's time, made everything more efficient. Yeah. Cool. Thank you guys again.
Awesome.
So my laptop inside this drawer.
Put my laptop what?
Put my laptop in that drawer.
Oh, you're leaving?
Yeah.
Okay, which drawer? Does Dom know what drawer it is?
This one.
Oh.
No.
Sure. Next up is Andrew. Sorry guys, I might have to leave early. So up next is Andrew. Then switching the number 4 position to number 3. Number 4 is not here, so you are looks like you are the number 3. And then it's Adam at the end. After that, just put my laptop on the drawer.
All right, great. No problem. Thanks, Arvin.
Sounds good. Well, thank you all for coming, and there's free pizza. If there's any left, take it home and stay hype.
All right, thanks, Arvin.
Happy hack. Oh, we also have a GNU stickers here for free.
Right.
Well, can I advertise MHAC's tab here?
No, it's only Grizz X2 happening in September 30. Just kidding. It's MHAC's Nano Meetup anyways.
You help?
You can go.
Yeah. There goes it. Arpin, did you text me the YouTube link?
Yeah, it's on our page, Facebook page.
Can you just show me the link? I'll just take a picture of it. I want to send to my friends.
Rapid analysis with AI.
Yeah, I'm ready to start, Wayne. You guys are ready?
Oh,
1 second.
You can probably take your laptop if you want. I think we're like the whole year.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so my project is rapid analysis with AI. Before that, I am going to tell you a bit about my background. So I'm Andrew Kamal. I do computer and electrical engineering, and I'm a cloud data analyst at a small firm called Grizz. It's a marketing firm, so what I do for them is they have a bunch of analytical data from past customers, usually people who use e-commerce or things like that a lot. And I end up data mining essentially all that analytics data into dashboards for them, so they end up finding what works and what doesn't, and able to optimize their spending budget. But that's a bit about my background. In my free time, I'm a hackathon and startup junkie. So the project I'm entering is for the 2017 GIF Ab Nelson Challenge, which is basically a challenge where you're liberating species from open data repositories for reuse in the scientific community. And my project, essentially what I have is all these repositories from open source ecological repositories for different species. And what I want to do is I want to mine that data, and I use predictive analysis to find out different correlations, different averages, and things like that using AI and Rapid Miner Studio's platform. So this makes it easier for you to obviously sort that information. So an example of what I have right here is Panthera data of different genomic species. So we have order, family, classification. So this is basically the Darwin core classification for different animal species. And you have this dashboard in RapidMiner's own interface, and basically the predictive analysis extension, you can look at the different classification of species, and you can see things such as activity cycle, the average body mass, their diet. You can even see their sexual maturity age and their activity cycles, which I have no idea how to get that data, but that's not my problem. And then another thing is you can also visualize rain levels using another ecological repository. So this shows the last 46 years and also different density levels and things like that. I'll get more into a demo later on. So what we have is the Darwin Core metadata graph. So this is a scatter plot, and this shows the temperature mean for the activity cycle. And what we have here is you can look at all those classifications, and you can actually see the averages and the maximum and minimum for thousands upon thousands of species. And using rapid analysis and AI with data mining, you can use programs like R and Zplot to look up to 800 million different species from open source repositories and be able to come up with some sort of correlation or averages in different species in a few minutes. So why data analysis and AI go hand in hand? So artificial intelligence, using it for data regression and data analysis or predictive analysis in the future is where the future needs to be heading for AI. You can do stuff like financial predictions. You can be able to measure cancer genomic case studies in a few seconds. You can be able to predict upward trends. You can be able to coincide with world events, or you can look at stuff like the Stratus project or the Google Lunar project and be able to evaluate cosmological data. So here is the Darwin Core. So what I...
Did that cable come loose?
No, it's still here.
You got loose on the TV?
Yeah, I wanted to do the demo on the TV.
I know. Did the cord come loose on the TV?
Oh.
So yeah, that's that.
No.
Try unplugging it and plugging it back in.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, yeah, it's good now. Okay, sorry about that monstrosity. But here you can see stuff like the entire adult body weight, and you can look through all these data repositories for different genomical classifications using a predictive analysis API, and then for stuff such as the rain levels demo, what you'd have here is you can be able to look at this scatter chart, or you can, if you use SOM or density, you can find out different rain densities of what you end up measuring. Oh, here we go. So you can do stuff such as heat mapping past data from open repositories and end up seeing correlations. Now, the reason people would want to see stuff like rain densities, or they'd want to see the sexual activity in different animals, or be able to classify all these species and look at activity cycles, is stuff like finding out which ones could be in the extinction list, evaluate different climate trends, and things like that. So that's my demo. Do you have any questions?
This looks pretty similar to like Tableau or something. Is that kind of what it's like?
Well, RapidMiner Studio, the difference between it and Tableau is you can integrate R and Zplot and more advanced modules. With Tableau, you can do lots of stuff like that, but Tableau is not as developer or open source friendly. Like there's a Hadoop extension for RapidMiner Studio, and it's mainly used by data scientists, while Tableau is more towards analytical marketing.
Firstly, I want to add that this is all very impressive. Secondly, I have a question actually. With all of this data, have you personally made any use of any of that data? Like, what kind of like special analytics have you done with that, if any?
Well, right now for the ecological data, this is for a hackathon state, so it's in its early stage. But in the past, I looked at different analytics from companies like one company who sold drones for like 5 or 6 years, and they were doing different marketing things. And you have the Google Analytics dashboard, the Hootsuite dashboard, and all those. And basically, it's like hundreds of thousands of different columns and things like that. And you can see the average cost per click, conversion rates. Now, if you tried going through Google or Hootspot and seeing the averages for that, it would take forever. What I do is I end up exporting the data directly to a data mining program like that, and then integrate usually an R or Gplot script, and I end up finding the averages in a few minutes. Obviously, it's like a few hours of dev work to set that up, and I could tell them, hey, this marketing method has been wasting your money, shut that down immediately. This marketing method is good, complete it. And then other people would use stuff for predictive analysis to, especially with a cancer genomics example, they'd be able to predict different cellular trends, like different vaccines and rDNA and things like that. I don't know much about the medical aspects of it, but I know it's very useful in the medical industry to be able to have predictive analysis for different patient data. Now, with PMI and private healthcare information, they use ones that are in the public domain. So those people are organ donors or dead in the past, obviously.
Awesome.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Adam, you can connect to the Wi-Fi here?
I don't have credentials anymore.
I can get you
someone
in.
else.
Okay. Awesome. Wait, so then it says I have to either get guest sponsorship or
Someone should just log in with their.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna be able to get that.
Yeah.
I can put you
Just
in.
have someone log in with their. I've been graduated too long. They don't let me have internet anymore.
Just promise not to do
Yeah, do you
anything
know what it is?
shady.
thank you.
Okay. What's it called? Username. Oh, which one? Conference. Can you tell me the username one more time?
Like at the exact level where you can't go under. I was like, why would somebody?
Okay.
How would you get at this height? It's like you would do over.
Okay.
It's supposed to tighten the bag.
Tension.
Oh, yeah. It doesn't work though.
It doesn't.
Mine doesn't. In both of these chairs. Is yours? Yeah, it's not. It doesn't sound like it. No. Yeah, these chairs suck.
I don't know.
What's your first name?
Oh, Amelia. A-M-U-L.
Okay, so I don't know who is Ellie.
Who's Lesia? Do you know Lesia Mahone?
No.
Okay.
What are you guys doing?
They're
Why
hacking
is
this
it taking so
computer.
long? Just gotta log into Grizz now.
Yeah, we are.
Do you need more time to figure it out?
Yeah, I didn't think
let me just see if it loads.
He's just installing. He's just installing a keylogger.
Oh god.
Dom, you got that first shell yet?
You good? You're on Yahoo.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Goes to Yahoo.
Because Google is always.
You know they got bought out too, right?
Google's always cached.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, by Verizon.
By what? Oh, Verizon. I think you said something else. Never mind.
Dude, I only ever use
Thank
Google
you.
or
No problem.
DuckDuckGo.
I've never used DuckDuckGo. Do you use Bing? No.
Yeah, but
I think you can make money on it too now. Like for searching stuff up.
Oh, you make money from just doing searches?
Yeah, like they're just trying to incentivize people to use it instead of Google.
Yeah, exactly.
And people still don't use Bing. Yeah. I don't think it's much. Probably like $5 a month or something.
Use it
But
I heard about that actually.
yeah, they actually do pay you for
Really?
using their.
Did
Yeah.
you try it?
No, I'm not gonna use Bing. It's so annoying.
Maybe I'd use it for the searches. I don't care.
Yeah. Enter system.
At work, I'd have to use Google.
What is a child duck called?
Shoot. Okay. How you guys doing?
Woo! Good.
Hi, my name is Malia Palmer. I can't wait to get talking to you today. But before we get started, I want to tell you what I want to talk to you about today is so much more than a presentation or where I see the future and my vision for product domain. It's about a conversation I want to start with each one of you about product design. It's about a reflection of what I believe branding is and how time is a reflection of brand. Okay, I can't wait to get started. So let me first take a step back and tell you a little bit of my history. So when I was 15 years old, I had a unique opportunity to get hired as a web engineer at this small nonprofit. You likely haven't heard of it in California, biomedical engineering nonprofit called Neurospring. And so eventually I worked there for 2.5 years, not offshore, but online of course. And eventually I grew to the position where I actually became the lead developer on the web team. And I actually joined the management team for almost 1.5 years. So I've been working there for almost 2.5 years. I just recently stopped working there. But probably one of the most important opportunities I learned was I had a direct communication with the CEO. I talked about branding. And this completely changed my aspect of branding and understanding that product isn't something that you just use when you're building something. It's the way you talk. It's the way you communicate. It's the way you present something in school. And so much more. And so that's what I want to talk to you guys today. Now, in this presentation, I will be using product. I could start off in many different ways. I could start off something like this. I mean, this is the idea that you have so many ideas out there. I mean, the complexity of so many ideas too. Some people crowd the space with too many ideas. And in that same way, some people, when they want to crowd the space with complexity, they somehow want to reverse that and with simplicity. But sometimes that simplicity also detracts from time and product design. So I believe that there has amalgamation of both. And that's why I believe in what makes a great product. And that's the way I start off this presentation. Now I want to also talk to you about in terms of product design. I want to talk to you with this quote. I want you guys to read this with me. You are curing a problem by creating a solution. Read this one more time, guys. Come on, one more time. You are curing a problem by creating a solution. I want to tell you this is absolutely wrong. Because what you're actually doing is, and every 21st century entrepreneur understands this, you're actually representing both the problem and solution. You are not ever removing the problem from the ecosystem. Because in order to market something to a CEO, as I did, or actually get funding for a project, you have to convince them that your problem is worth fixing. You have to convince them that funding is necessary to achieve your product vision.
Value proposition.
Exactly. So that's the importance of representing both the problem and solution. So in the same way, I want to talk to you about park domains. Now, we live in 2017, a year of waging cyber warfare, of where you see the most beautiful designs on the planet. Yet, you still face something as simple as park domains. And no one understands this is actually a huge market. I mean, this is 1 billion plus of market. And it's not just about park domains, it's how you sell those domains on the park domain system. That's something I wanted to fix. But before I can get to fixing something, I have to understand how I address that problem. So this is how I think about it. 1, via solving problems via simplicity. 2, solving, and this is what you talked about, by offering value at a lower cost. And 3, a term that I call fast UX with great design. So let me define what fast UX is, at least what I believe to be fast UX. And that's this idea is how fast you transition from presenting the product to how fast they can actually receive value from that product. That's what I call fast UX, and that's the term I define. And I can simplify this even further by going as simple as simplicity, shareholder, and speed. But this all comes in a very important part we have to realize just because you're working towards this doesn't mean you have to sacrifice time or design, because both come into an absolutely important point. And a question: have you heard of this? If you're too late, if you're not embarrassed of your first product, you're shipping too late. I don't believe that's true. In fact, I don't think so. You should ever come with the expectation. You should be embarrassed of something. You should be proud of what you're building. And sure, embarrassment might come up because of it. Doesn't mean you have to be planning for it. Oh, okay. So actually, if I get to that, I wanted to show you guys. I had problems with the Wi-Fi before, so I'm not sure if this will work. But I want to show you a tip that I learned that kind of changed my life in terms of building logos and just building very simple design and wireframes without Photoshop, without anything. So if someone has a timer, I've never done this before without a mouse. I want to show you. I want to try this.
Point the timer down.
Yeah. Start my stopwatch. All right, we're going.
Okay, wait, not yet. I still have to
You can pull it out.
4 seconds, 5 seconds.
Okay, so this is one website I want to show you guys. It's a website I use all the time. It's called logomaker.com. It's without the E, and it's a very simple website. And it talks about it's extremely simple, and it's like sitting in the underground. So it's one of the most useful tools I've ever seen. So I'm going to try to build a logo on a conversation my sister actually brought up yesterday, because there was a carpenter, and his last name is Blue. He wanted a business called Blue Tools. So I did practice this, but it should be possible in 3 minutes. Okay. So first, when I start off with design, I just want to start with something simple. So let's start with the simple shape, something as simple as a circle. I'll bring it here, and then I'm just going to build something. Just build off. So just a simple search as tools. So I'll put this in, put this out here, grab it. Sometimes there's also beauty in having something in perfection. So now let's quickly grab, let's type the name of the company. And one important thing that's often understated is the importance of fonts. So I'm going to choose our archival black, a fancy tool. The color scheme isn't exactly what I would want it to be just yet. Usually you want to pick up your hex code beforehand. But let's see. Wait, do you know how you are in time?
1 minute and 40 seconds.
Okay.
Minus 45 seconds.
Yeah. So 1 minute.
Okay, and here's just a simple thing that I like to do just to make it, just add a pinch of more actual design. You just want to do something that, I'll show you how I like to integrate a product. So a very simple thing, you might think, how would I integrate something as simple as glue? It's very simple that you just have to look at product in a different way. You have to just sometimes minimize it to the small details, and when you put something right overlaying over here, you bring this, transform it in almost just the addition of one small thing can kind of add so much value to what you build. It is this idea that you are building beautiful by analyzing the small. You know what time?
2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Okay, so that was below 3 minutes. I think this is a pretty professional logo, and for 3 minutes or less.
Yeah.
But one thing I wanted to show you was this is very simple. I did with just barely using my brain just a little bit. But the idea is, look how just that one small thing kind of changed the whole logo. It's the small differences, and sometimes the small things you think about outside the box, they can add so much more value to your time value proposition than you even dream of. Now let's go back to the presentation. Okay. Uh-oh. Okay. Oh, wait, we're back?
Yeah, if you do shift that thumb.
Okay. So with that said, I want to talk to you about the fact that everyone has a brand. I mean, just sitting here today, you guys all produce a brand. The way you listen, the way you interact, the way you actually interacted with me when I was talking presentations, the way Dom presented, and the way I know Adam's going to kill it as well. So I mean, he has a brand, the way he's develop. And the way I'm presenting to you, I hopefully build a brand myself. And it's important that you take the little times, the little moments to value your brand and to what you do. And sometimes step out of the box because there's very little risk and a large amount of reward when you finally step out of that box. And an awesome domain never hurts. So the product I actually have to it today is actually Park Domain, PARKEDDOMA.IN. So it spells Park Domain. And basically, let me give you a quick demo of it. So basically, when I was looking for this, it was just the idea of going something really, really simple. Oh, sorry, that's something I made for Mother's Day. Sorry. Basically, okay. So I wanted to go back to the bare bones. I didn't want to do something crazy, and one of the words is a fast UX in delivering value almost immediately. So let's go ahead and get ready to customization. And some of the three most important things I learned about, in the market for Park Domains are: one, is for sale; two, coming soon; and contact me. I wanted a way to create those pages extremely dynamically, extremely fast in a way that I wouldn't have thought before. I wanted to go out of the box. I could run this throughout this process a billion different ways, but I wanted to go something to a really core thing called JavaScript prompts. And so it's so simple, but it works so well. I absolutely fall in love with it. So I'm just going to show you guys a quick project I created, or showing you how quickly you can create a Park domain that's meant for sale. So one of my previous projects was Freematic.org. It's basically a free search engine. I'll tell you a little about the name. It's basically home of everything free. Now, what's my asking price per domain? Let's say 99K. Let's set it low, 99K. Well, are you how far am I going to how far am I going to will it? Oh, let's say very firm. You know, not willing to negotiate at all. Now, what I love, this is very important because this actually built this with solving another problem that we noticed with Park domains is ad blocking. So basically, I built an anti-ad blocking solution, basically making sure, well, I didn't build it, I implemented the template so that anyone can make sure that they create ads. So in a few seconds, I just created a very fast UX, delivering quality, what I believe, quality design, an incredibly, really quick time frame. And more importantly, I just wanted to integrate smaller things. I just built this in the past day and a half of free time. But to me, what's important is I provide few solutions that I think are valuable to time. I took time to pick out gradients, and it's randomized every time to build a product. I wanted a way to just rethink the solution and simplify the solution into a more mainstream method. Instead of following a mainstream method, I wanted to find a way to think outside the box and create a solution. And this goes from everything from creating ad block to actually implementing anti-ad block solution. And so now I want to thank you guys for your patience. It shows other things, but I also wanted to talk to you about one or two quick things. One, I want to reward you guys for your patience, but right before I get into that, I want to talk about this one project that I'm working on. I'm not going to too much into it, but I'm looking for basically any help if you guys want. I'm working on an iOS app that basically helps people who are preparing for speeches. I'd love to get any of you guys' help and work with you guys, if anyone's watching right now. And I also want to reward every single one of you here. So I haven't told you this yet, but when I was last year, I used to run a hosting company up till the end of last year. And right after that, I turned that into a nonprofit where my goal is to every year find 100 new people to power for free hosting for life. So that's free premium hosting for life. It's my mission to provide young individuals, etc., with absolutely free hosting. And then it takes this little process, so it's a total, get right, 650 words, 2 different essays. But they get absolutely free hosting for life. But I want to do something special with you, all of you today. If you email me, that's my personal email, and you just talk about this presentation and say you were here, you'll get 1 year of free SSD hosting. You just have to email me. I'll email you back, and you guys will all get it. Thank you so much for your guys' patience. Thanks to Arpin and Adam for hosting this, and Dom. I mean, I really appreciate your time. Don't forget to email. I want to help you guys out. It'll be absolutely free. It's SSD hosting as well. And you get it for 1 year. You don't have to do any application. Just email me. And if you guys enjoyed, then maybe you can apply to be one of our 100 candidates this year for free hosting for life. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. I would love to hear any questions if you guys have any. Oh, that's it.
So, what do you usually use park domains for?
Okay, so there's two big things for park domains. One, there's this almost conception where it's so misspelled domains, right? Especially when you misspelled domain, people go access the site and then people purchase it. So like DisneyYY.com has incredible value. And having a park domain on that spot, I mean, you could easily get millions and millions of dollars. But the problem is, what happens is sometimes these park domains can't afford to actually build a site, or they're too lazy to. So what happens is they just redirect the site to another site to get some money off that. The problem is nothing compares if they would have actually just put ads on the site. But people want a nice user experience. I want to solve that problem with providing a nice user experience on a very, what I think is an important problem that I'm surprised we haven't solved at this point. What's up?
So, you know how Flippa is kind of a competitor?
Well, the thing is, I'm looking for absolutely free. Like, that's the important part. Like, if you go on the website right now, Park Domain, you can create something. Oh, I didn't show you. It's like you actually can download an almost immediately customized version of that site.
No, I was gonna say this is in a way like really different than Flippa, because Flippa, instead of like having to put it on their site and them getting a commission and then you having to accept offers, people who just want to keep the domain but have like a certain price instead. Like if they had like a really premium domain, they wouldn't put like a buy it now price of $99K. They just have a template like this because.
Exactly.
So I see the vision.
Yeah. I just wanted to solve a problem. I think that's the most important part. People don't realize how easy it is to solve a problem, and I think this is a huge market that's worth solving a problem. But don't forget, seriously, don't forget to send me an email, hello@emily.co. I can't wait to you guys to hear from you.
Good job.
Thank you so much.
Guys, I have to go to work again, so I'll see you.
Take care. See ya.
Oh, the man of the hour.
Get a smartwatch on.
Is Tristan watching?
I hope so. Okay, so I'm Adam. Most of you in this room know me, but I'm an Oakland University graduate from last spring, graduating computer engineering, and I've been working for a digital marketing company called Hello World, doing Android development and just generic software engineering as well. So today I'm going to talk about Kotlin, which is a new up-and-coming programming language that is kind of all the buzz recently. Started back in like 2012. Built by JetBrains, same company that does IntelliJ and Android Studio and other IDEs like PyCharm. And it was really just meant to be like a replacement to Java to make Java a lot easier to use for developers. A couple of years ago, some Android developers started picking it up, using it as a plugin for Android Studio, even though it was unofficially supported. But just a month or two ago, Android announced they're officially supporting it as a first-class language. It's going to come with Android Studio. And so that's why everyone's been talking about it recently, because this like hipster language that everyone thought was a fad actually caught on, and even now Google's buying into it. So there's their website if you want to learn more. It's just kotlinlang.org, and it shows it's a lot more than just another language for Android. Since it runs on the JVM, you can use it anywhere Java's used. You can even use it in replace for JavaScript, and now they've got native support as well, which is fairly new. I don't know a lot about it. But this also highlights some of the reasons why Kotlin is really important. So it's concise. It drastically reduces the amount of code you use. I'll show you a great example of that. It's also got type safety, so Kotlin has the ability to completely eradicate null pointer exceptions. Depending on how you use it, you can never be guaranteed to never get one in Kotlin. Interoperable. One of the biggest benefits is you don't have to use it completely in place of Java. You can use the two of them together. So a lot of companies like maybe didn't rewrite their whole app in Kotlin, but have started writing all their new code in Kotlin because it can still interrupt. And then tool friendly, like I said, it's built by the same company that builds Android Studio, so the tooling is fantastic. So I didn't prepare any slides for this, but what I want to do is kind of give you guys a live coding demo to show you what Kotlin can look like here. So I'm going to start by, is this too hard to read? It's probably,
Well, you can make it a little bit bigger.
how do I do this?
Wasn't it like file and then you like, or it was some of the toolbox?
There was a way to,
Yeah, there's a shortcut key.
I know I did something the other day where I could actually, I swear I just did this yesterday.
Yeah,
Is it font size?
There was a, oh, I can't remember.
You just
Alright, hold on, hold on.
So you say
Control and mouse. That's what I tried to do.
You guys say intelligent or intelligent?
I said IntelliJ.
IntelliJ?
Yeah.
That's what I thought I was doing, but it just doesn't want to work today.
Alright, well, you can just try it using the view menu. So if you get
That didn't
into,
work though.
no?
No, I don't see anything in here.
Do you think the whole resolution
That's your presentation mode.
That might be better.
Try,
Oh.
try zooming out now.
I know, now I gotta know. No, that's not what I want.
It's
Man, you were killing me, Andrew, so you.
it's pretty big, but I'm good with that.
No, hold on. One more try. I won't hold us up forever. It still doesn't want to do it. Okay, well,
If you go to editor, and then you can go to colors and fonts, and then fonts.
Yep, that's it.
so how do I up it?
Oh, size.
Yeah, but it's
Oh, you hit save as.
Oh, you gotta hit save
Yeah,
as.
so actually,
Yeah.
they make a new scheme. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
236. Ah, that's still way too
Yeah,
big.
I think this is the same size as the presentation mode.
Just do like 18.
Alright, that's better. Okay, so anyways, probably more effort than that was worth, but I want to start by, to really show you how much time Kotlin could save you and how much easier it makes on developers, I want to first show you what your plain old Java object would look like. So this is something you might use for a to-do list, where you have three properties: the description, the due date, and whether or not it's completed. And you might start by having different overload constructors, because you might want default values. Like, okay, well, I just want to create one, with a certain description, but I want the date to be today, and, is completed to be set to false. So we make this overload constructor that just takes in the description, it calls into the other. I'm not going to get into the Java specifics. This is just a way of setting default values. So I have the constructor for each scenario where, okay, I want to give you this information, everything else just use the default. And then we have to use our getters and setters. Because they're private fields, we need a way to say, okay, well, give me the due date, set the due date, tell me if it's completed, it's not completed, and so on. We might even want to override this equals method. In Java, if you just check if two things are equal, by default it's going to use their reference. But really you might want to say, okay, well, I want to know if they're equal by value. Like they have the same description, due date, and completed, then they're equal. This one looks ugly. It's auto-generated by IntelliJ. I just did that really quick to show you. Same thing with hash code. I use their auto-generated version, which uses each of these fields to give this custom hash code. And even auto-generates the toString method, which tells you the class name, and then each field and what its value is. So what you can't see on this screen, unfortunately, is that this whole file is 83 lines long. That doesn't sound like a lot, but there's a lot of code here, and a lot that's pointless. Like, these getters and setters do the exact same thing. I have to write 4 different constructors just to handle default values. I have to write this ugly equals method just to check if the values are the same. But let me show you what this looks like in Kotlin. And that's it. It's just one line. So obviously, say this a lot of time, even auto-generating everything in Android Studio, that took me a minute or so to set up. But this just takes me a little time. And I'll break down why this is exactly the same for you. So when we call this a data class is something that exists in Kotlin, which automatically overrides the equals method, the hash code, and the toString, in the same way you saw them in the past. So if you give it a data class, it'll just take each field and check for equality. When you go to print it, it'll print the class name, and then all the fields just like that. You can still override those methods if you want to customize it, but just by using this data keyword, you get all of that automatically. I'll come back to this in a second. We give it a constructor, and we tell it, inside the constructor, my class is going to have a variable called description, a variable called date, and a variable called if completed. And it tells you right here, this is a default value of an empty string. This is a default value of today's date. This has a default value of false. And so, before I go into the JVM overloads thing, let's make a new Kotlin class real quick. So I'll show you in action how this looks. So the cool thing about that constructor, right, is that I could just create a task, and I could just use an empty constructor with all the default values. Or again, I could say, okay, I give it a task with some description, and that still works, and so on and so forth. Semicolons aren't necessary in Kotlin, but still have it. And so on and so forth, just like in Java. The reason we need it here, though, this JVM overloads. So without this, all that Kotlin code that I showed you still works. But one of the problems, like I said, even though this is fully interoperable, if I didn't use this, and I tried to use the same file in Java, it wouldn't work. Java would only interpret that this class has one constructor. So what this annotation does is it tells the Kotlin compiler, make me a constructor for each one based on those default values that I gave it. That makes sense. So this is strictly for interop. If anyone's more interested, I wrote a blog post on it yesterday, and I can go into that. Yeah, so that's your first example of how Kotlin saves you a ton of time here. But I kind of spent a lot of time on that. But let's talk about other ways that Kotlin saves you a lot of time. So what I'm going to do, this is just a generic Android activity. I'm going to use, Android Studio has an autoconverter that'll convert a file to Kotlin for me. And I'll use this to work with. So I want to talk about null safety too. I know that was the thing I mentioned earlier about Kotlin avoiding null pointer exceptions. Let's say like something you might do in like Java, right? And so this line here, I get a value for this floating action button, and then I set a click listener to it. So what happens when I click that floating action button? Now, if I was writing in Java, even I can do the same thing in Kotlin, but if I was writing in Java and I wanted to say, you know what, only set the click listener as long as this isn't null, because I don't want this to throw a null pointer exception, right? I'd say, okay, if this is not equal to null, which Kotlin is going to yell at me because in this particular example I've already said that it can't be. Let's try it this way. I want to get rid of the errors, but I'll come back to it. The errors are going to explain. But this is what you would do in Java, right? You first check, okay, if this is not equal to null, then set the unclick listener. Well, in Kotlin, there's another way to handle that. So when you define something and you just put as type, the way this looks now, this is what's called, I don't know if they have a name for it, but the Kotlin, as far as the Kotlin compiler is concerned, that's not nullable. If I want it to be nullable, then I put a question mark after it, which is saying, okay, well, this is an optional floating action button. It can either have a value or it could be null. Most of the time, don't even give it the option, but if you're interacting with Java, sometimes you have to. And the way we can handle that is Kotlin actually has this safe accessor, which is where I can say, okay, well, gonna be fab question mark. That's that on-click listener. And just by using this little safe operator, that's doing the if null check for me. So I don't have to sit here and remember to check if it's null or not. As long as I label this as optional, and I know ahead of time that it might be null, the Kotlin compiler, you'll see there was a little red line. It's always going to yell at you and say, hey, this could be null. You need to handle that. So this is a huge benefit. Like, if you label everything that you know is going to be optional as such, and you handle it all here, nothing is going to throw a null pointer exception. Went to a great talk at DroidCon New York by Christina Lee, who is an Android developer at Pinterest, and they've recently switched their app to 100% Kotlin. And she said that after they switched over and they went through and handled all these cases and they knew they were not going to have any null pointer exceptions, she said their peer reviews actually got a lot better because people stopped looking for nitpicky things like, oh, could this throw an error? And they're actually focusing on the logic in the code. So that's a big thing about how this increases like productivity for developers, right? If you know, statistically, null pointer exceptions are 40% of app crashes. You've eliminated 40% of crashes. It's a huge benefit. So that's another thing. I could go on for days. One other cool Kotlin benefit I want to show you guys that too is called extension methods. So typically in Java, if I wanted to do something like, I'm not going to show the Java version. Let's say I want to do something like take a Boolean value and get it back as a 1 or a 0. And I want to write like a static utility method so that I'm not doing a bunch of if statements everywhere. And just do, utility that get Boolean as number and give it a thing. Well, Kotlin has what are called extension methods, which allow you to do the same thing, but without really realizing it's a static thing. So let me show you what I mean. So I'll create a file, call it like Boolean utils. And the way to create an extension method is I want this to be an extension of the class Boolean, and I want to give it a method called, as integer. And this is going to return an integer. And so what this does is think, another way I could do this is I could write my own subclass of Boolean and give it my own value, right? And then just use that everywhere. But that's a hassle. Who's actually going to do that? But here, pretending it was, okay, well, we'll say, if this is true, return, return, this is how you do it in Kotlin. If this is true, return 1, else return 0. It's kind of how it looks in Kotlin. It doesn't have the fancy ternary operator. It actually uses if and else as an expression. So I actually got called out. Fun fact for you guys. We were talking about this in the Kotlin Lang Slack, and I use a ternary operator all the time, which is like the little question mark and then the colon to switch on stuff. And I was kind of mad that I couldn't use this, and it was kind of confusing. And I referred to it as unreadable because I wasn't used to it. And someone said, I don't know how you can argue that if and else is more unreadable than a question mark and a colon. And I realized that he got me. So the cool thing about doing this is now if I go into some Kotlin class, okay, and I create some Boolean, and I want to get that as an integer, I can just do as integer, as if that method already existed on the class. So instead of Java where you'd have to say, okay, well, my end equals utility dot get Boolean as integer, get the thing, I just use it as its normal class method. And what this is doing under the hood is the exact same thing you did in Java, but saves you all that time. It makes your code a lot more readable, I think, as well. So those are just a couple examples. Kind of hit like my 15 minutes. We could go on and on about what Kotlin brings, but I just want to highlight a few of those examples, how it saves you so much more time than Java. And you don't lose any performance. If you look at those two classes, like I showed you earlier, if you look at the actual bytecode they generate, it's exactly the same. So it's less code. You don't get a performance difference, but you don't lose anything either. And you can arguably say with all that less code, you're maintaining less, things are easier to debug, easier to read, all those benefits. Why the world hasn't switched yet, I don't know. But hopefully, any of you who are interested in Android development, hopefully you consider going this route instead of Java. Any questions about it?
So it sounds like Kotlin actually shares some features with C# when you're talking about nullable types, default parameters, and extension methods, right?
It does. It does. Default parameters is one of my favorite things in C#. I don't think, you still have, you can have things that are null in C#.
Right. So yeah, the way that nullable types work is a little bit different in
Right.
C#. Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
This is completely selfish, but
Yeah.
I want to know for like the app I was building, on Android or via Kotlin, is there any way to reduce that natural like native 15 millisecond Android audio latency?
I don't think so.
Okay, because I know the iOS doesn't have that problem, but
Mhm.
Android is. I can't think of a way to like there's no way to remove that latency.
Yeah, I don't know of one. I don't
Maybe
think
we just
Kotlin would change that sort of thing.
Uh-huh.
Kotlin does bring, I mean, it's kind of, I didn't get into it. I went over examples of Kotlin that work strictly for Java, but it does have a lot of unique Android extensions. Like, if you take a look at like this activity that I created in Kotlin, where we still have to do this annoying boilerplate thing where I call find view by ID. I give it the ID of the resource on the screen, and then I cast it to whatever type I want. There are Kotlin extensions where I can really just use like the ID itself without like skip this call, just use the ID. Why do I have to do this every time? It does other similar things like that save you a lot of time. But that are Android specific. Good question.
So basically, everyone sees Java as this kind of very slowly non-evolving language that just fears change. Do you see the Kotlin developers adding new features to the language to keep up with the times, keep up with like different kinds of evolutions that programming takes place in?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like I said, so it's still used for Java, but it makes everything easier. Like why do if you look at this Java class, why do I write all this stuff every time? Every Java object I create is doing the exact same thing. So why write it? And that's kind of what they're thinking over at Kotlin. It's also a very active community. Their like issue track is very active. I submitted a bug to the Kotlin converter in IntelliJ, and it's already been fixed in there, which is pretty cool. But like I said, you save all that and you don't lose anything. If I wanted to go in here and I wanted to say, okay, well, I can still override toString if I want to print a certain way. So you're not restricted to those benefits. You can still do whatever you want with it, which is really nice. Interesting. And it has lambdas as well, which I don't really want to get into, and all the other features of Java 8 that exist.
Right.
I think they'll keep moving forward and do a lot of things that Java can't.
Awesome. Thank you.
You have another one.
Yeah. What would be the best way to get involved with the Kotlin community?
So they have a Slack group. If you Google for it, that's really helpful. That's probably the biggest one. The guys are on Facebook. HH Android is the Facebook group that all they do is talk about Kotlin lately. Start with the Slack, and it'll take you in a whole bunch of directions. One of the Slack organizers has written a book called Kotlin in Action, which I have and never cracked open. But there's a whole bunch of resources out there. But start with the Slack, and it'll kind of go from there. But one of them, actually, I should call this one out. Kotlin Cones, it's called, is this will link you to a GitHub repo. But when you pull it down, it's just a repo of all these like Kotlin lessons and test them there. And by default, all of those tests are failing. And so what you have to do is read the lesson and go update the code so that the tests pass. So it's a really neat way to learn like bite-sized pieces of how Kotlin works. 10 out of 10. Recommend that one.
Awesome.
Cool. Yeah, no, keep it going, keep it going.
Wait, so how are you able
one more.
How are you able to do so many things and be so many places just on a personal level? How are you able to do so many things in so many places at the same time? There's like hardly a hackathon or place I haven't seen you. And like, how are you able to do that possible? You're like in every single community I've ever seen.
Do you like sleep? I mean, that's your short answer. And if it's important to you, you make time for it. So,
Amen.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all it is. It's just, I make time for it.
That's awesome.
And I, like, shove the stress into, like, the deep parts and never, like, let them bubble up. But they're there.
How many name features do you have?
And it's around 5, plus the hoodie. So here.
Arpa's
You
not
wanna
here.
address this? You wanna
Oh,
address
wait, can I do a shameless MPAX tab promo?
Sure.
this? Is it really shameless?
It's really shameless. Hey, so this is a great meetup for Nano. I'm on MHAX 10 Core. I run workshops and stuff, so this is a great meetup. I really liked it. There were some great talks on Kotlin, AI, what else? Park domains. I missed the first one. Sorry. What else? So one perk. Huh?
Barcode.
Yeah, barcodes. So I guess one perk of me being on Core is, or not Core, well on workshops is if anyone here wants to run a workshop, hit me up and I will gladly put you in place. Like, you will have your own workshop. Adam here is running too.
Nice. You have a contact that you want to tell me on?
Yeah. It's cdandu@umish.edu. If you want it,
I'm plugged there. We'll put it up there.
yeah. Also, you guys will get exclusive swag courtesy of Nano if you come to M10. So come to M10.
Are you guys doing fidget spinners?
Actually, that got shut down. I was so
Why?
pissed. I was like, wait, we need
I'm
shit.
not telling.
But yeah, no. What else?
Fidget spinners are classmate.
Yeah, come to 10, and it's gonna be great because it's 10. 10 plus.
All right. Well.
Hold on, Dom. Get it on camera.
Yep. You guys go. You guys saw it here at Lex.
All right,
All right.
I'm
Well,
stopping
thank
it.
you guys again for coming.